Hey there, guys. So I want to thank you for joining today's live stream. As always, the midday live stream is pretty much what I'm calling it. So, again, guys, I do want to continue to thank you for joining these streams and just engaging on my content, which helps me a ton. Again, I want to provide as much value as I can with these streams and to sort of share my expertise as an online fitness coach. So, if you want to learn more information on my coaching, you can go to my website, which I do now have a domain. I mentioned that previously, but I do want to mention it again because it is more easily accessible. So, all you have to do is go to bponlinefitness.com, and that's where you'll see all the information in regards to my coaching, as well as being able to sign up for my email list and any other information as far as how my program is structured. And you can also get access to sort of the other live streams that I've done in the past, which will take you to my YouTube channel as well. So there's a bunch of different things on there. I'm planning on adding new things as I sort of progress with building my online coaching business. But as right now, I've just been sort of focusing on optimizing it and giving you guys a little bit of information on my program. I'm trying to make it neat and very user friendly as much as I can, but you can access it both on the desktop as well as on mobile devices. So definitely check that out. With all that being said, guys, let's go ahead and talk about today's topic, which is going over hydration. And this is a topic that I've wanted to go back through since, I mean, it's been a couple months back, but I've talked about it, but I do want to go back into it because I feel like it's an important topic to go through, and it involves various different goals. It involves just in general, it's a healthy habit to have. So let's go ahead and get into today's topic. So I'm going to be talking all about hydration. So some of the things I'm going to talk about can include your adequate fluid intake, balanced fluid sources that you can intake for hydration, as well as thirst response, urine color. Urine color is going to be important. I'm going to discuss that. I know that sounds a little weird, but that is very significant and can help you sort of to know how hydrated you are. Your activity level, as well as climate, and how those sort of influence your sort of water intake and hydration. So that's what I'm going to be sort of discussing in that order. So let's go ahead and start with discussing adequate fluid intake. So the amount of fluid you need daily can vary based on factors such as your age, sex, weight, activity level, as well as climate. And I'm going to expand on some of those as we go along. So a general guideline is to aim for around 2.7 liters, which is 91 ounces of total water intake for women, and 3.7 liters or 125 ounces for men, including fluids from all sources, which can be beverages and food. So, one thing you need to keep in mind is that you can actually get some water intake from different sort of foods. So, that can mostly include, such as like fruits and vegetables, anything that's, kind of has more of a, I guess, more of a, like, for example, a cucumber would be a good example, or anything that sort of has more of a, I guess, a watery sort of, I don't know how you would describe it, but anything that is more dense in water would be where you would get, sort of fluid from as it relates to food. So just sort of keep that in mind, is that you can get fluid intake outside of just drinking beverages or drinking water. So keep in mind, of course, that this is also a rough estimate when we're discussing sort of these intake ounces. It can vary depending on so many different factors. I'm going to discuss another thing too that is not really detailed in this presentation, but I'm going to discuss a little bit about tracking and how I actually track water intake myself. I do a lot of tracking my water intake, I do it daily, and it's something that I do want to discuss a little bit further as we go through this presentation. It's not detailed in here, but I'm going to discuss it towards the end. So, balanced fluid sources. So, hydration doesn't solely depend on drinking water, as I just mentioned. It also is going to include fluids from other sources, such as beverages like milk, tea, and fruit juices, as well as water rich foods. Water rich, that's what I should have said. Water rich foods like fruits and vegetables, these contribute to your overall fluid intake. Your body carefully regulates the balance of fluids and electrolytes, sodium, potassium, etc., to maintain proper cellular function. This balance is crucial for various bodily processes, including nerve signaling, muscle contractions, and maintaining blood pressure. So, a lot of different things happen as it relates to hydration and water intake. So, sort of keep that in mind. So, again, you're going to get fluid from various different, you know, things outside of just drinking water. Keep these in mind. And another thing, too, is that these are going to vary depending on how much hydration you get from them. A lot of what I do when I'm tracking is primarily focused on just plain water. That's the way that I know that I'm getting exactly what, I know that I'm intaking that amount of water exactly. So I don't necessarily track, all the intricate, whether it be like coming from fruits or vegetables. However, you can track those and keep those into consideration. It's just a tad harder because, sort of gauging how much water you would get from fruit and vegetables is a little bit different than just drinking a beverage. But you can still get hydration from those sources. So sort of keep that in mind. So dehydration actually occurs when you lose more fluids than you take in, leading to an imbalance. So symptoms of dehydration can include dry mouth, dark urine, fatigue, dizziness, and confusion. So severe dehydration can actually be life-threatening. So there's various different reasons for dehydration. These can include not drinking enough water, or other hydrating fluids, losing more fluids than you take in due to factors like sweating excessively during exercise or in hot weather. Vomiting or diarrhea or fever can also sort of be a part of the reasons for dehydration. Some medical conditions, such as diabetes and kidney disease, can increase the risk of dehydration. Certain medications, like diuretics, which I'm going to discuss a little bit, can lead to increased urine output and contribute to dehydration. So, basically, one thing I do want to mention is, sort of going over the topic of dehydration. You've likely heard that which is what I'm going to discuss a little bit further. You've likely heard to drink more water after you've drank a ton of alcohol, and that is because you're dehydrated. So there's different fluids and different things can sort of influence dehydration. Again, when you're sick, you can likely be dehydrated. When you sweat a lot, that comes with dehydration. So you need to drink more fluids when you have any of these symptoms, basically. And I'm going to go a little bit further into the sort of diuretics and basically the different things that can lead to dehydration. So, symptoms related to dehydration, that's going to include thirst, dry mouth, dry skin. Some of these I just mentioned, but I'm just sort of, you know, giving you a side note of these. Dark yellow urine, fatigue and weakness, dizziness or lightheadedness, rapid heartbeat, and shallow breathing, sunken eyes, decreased urine output, confusion or irritability, fainting in severe cases. So these are some of the symptoms that you can get if you're excessively dehydrated. So one thing you need to do and to keep in mind, and this is something that I try to do myself, is that you need to spread out your water intake. So instead of drinking a large amount of water all at once, try to spread your water intake throughout the day. Sip water regularly to maintain a consistent level of hydration. So don't just to get your water intake. Don't just, do the water intake all at once just to get that number in. Do it gradually throughout the day so your body is sort of, you're ingesting that water and it's not just sort of running out of you and making you go to the bathroom. So just you know, gradually drink water throughout the day. One thing you could do is drinking a certain amount of water each hour. That's a great thing that you could do. There's many different ways you can buy different. I know there's water bottles that have sort of a way to, drink a certain amount of water each sort of hour, and they sort of have it labeled. So that's another thing that you can do to sort of keep track of that. And you can, of course, write down your fluid intake. For example, a lot of water bottles have on them, how many ounces they are. So you could write that down. I use an app to keep track of my water intake that's called a Water Llama, and it's really simple. There's nothing too, crazy detailed about it. All you're doing is you're basically just putting in how much water you're drinking, for that day. After I drink, a full bottle of water, I just I put it in an app, and then it calculates, how much more I need to reach my goal. So my water intake is higher, because, being a male, and then depending on your weight. So, for example, I could tell you what my recommended water intake is based on what I've done on sort of the Water Llama app. So I put in all my details, you know, my age, being a male, as well as my weight. And then another thing it'll ask too is it'll ask if, you're in a more hot climate or cold climate, and it'll sort of detail, how much water you need to intake. So my suggested daily intake is 98.4 ounces. And you can go in there. Again, this is just an example. There's probably other ways that you can, sort of track your water intake as far as different apps that you can use. But it just asks you those simple questions, and it'll just lay out sort of what your recommended intake would be. So, of course, mine is going to be higher being a male, you know, and then my weight, my age is going to sort of affect that as well. So, that's just an example for me. That's my water intake. And that's a lot. So, to keep in mind, just when you are starting to track your water intake, just do it gradually. You don't have to immediately reach your goal when you start out, because that's hard. Because when your body's not sort of used to, drinking that amount of water, you're going to, pee a lot and use the bathroom. So just do it gradually sort of increase your water intake and get to that point where you're getting to your suggested, goal. It's the same thing as like when I talk about with workouts, sort of do that. Just make it gradual. But going into that, sort of segueing into, you know, that is another thing you need to keep in mind is that you need to limit your caffeine and your alcohol intake, because that's going to have an effect on, sort of your hydration, and it could lead to dehydration. So, limiting caffeine and alcohol intake is important in regards to hydration, because both substances can have a diuretic effect, which is leading to dehydration. So, which means they increase urine production and potentially lead to dehydration. So, keep that in mind. Now, I just discussed a little bit about the diuretic effect. And again, that basically just means that it's, leading is a substance or any kind of fluid that's leading to you being dehydrated, basically, in a simple term. So, diuretic effect of caffeine. So, caffeine is found in coffee, tea, energy drinks, and some sodas, and is a mild diuretic. So, it stimulates the kidneys to produce more urine, which can lead to fluid loss. If you consume a lot of caffeinated beverages, especially in a short period, you may lose more fluids than you're taking in, potentially leading to dehydration, especially in hot weather or during physical activity. So keep that in mind as well. So the diuretic effect of alcohol, which I sort of just discussed not too long ago, alcohol such as beer, wine, and spirits is also a diuretic. So it inhibits the release of vasopressin, a hormone that helps regulate water balance in the body. As a result, alcohol leads to increased urine production. Excessive alcohol consumption can lead to a significant fluid loss and dehydration. You've likely heard that, you know, years ago. And I don't drink anymore, but years ago when I got really drunk, yeah, people always tell you, drink water, drink water. You're dehydrated, and you know, that's why when you're drunk, you're supposed to drink water because you're so dehydrated after consuming a certain amount of alcohol. So this is why you may experience symptoms like dry mouth, thirst, and a frequent urination when you drink alcohol. That's another thing too. But keep in mind that certain, you know, drinks and certain sort of fluids can lead to, dehydration. Coffee, tea, energy drinks, alcohol, all of those sort of have that diuretic effect, which can lead to fluid loss in your body. So that's all I have for you guys today. Again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch these. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that it gives you information that you can take with you. Another thing, like I mentioned, you can use different apps that can help with tracking your water intake. One app that I use that you can find in the App Store is called Water Llama. It's easy, it's very simple, there's nothing too detailed about it. It's a great way to track, which for me, I like to keep things simple and something that that's easily that where I don't have to go through a bunch of different, you know, things to keep track of it. I can just open it up and then it's ready to go. So if you're wanting to try to work on tracking your water intake, I would recommend that. I use it every single day. It's helped me to sort of stay on track towards my goal as far as reaching how many, my recommended amount of water intake. So that's something that you should try. I use it all the time. But if you have any questions about anything I discussed today, any sort of feedback you want to share, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I do want to mention the website I have, bponlinefitness.com, where you can see all the information in regards to my workout program. You can set up a consultation there. You can sign up for the email list. You can check out the link that leads to my other live streams. And then I've got different sort of pages that sort of detail parts of my workout, whether it be the assessment portion of the workout or my workout program, or it be, sort of how workouts are structured, things of that nature. I've sort of detailed in there, so you can check that out. But again, reach out if you have any questions. You can message me here on Facebook, and then I've got a bunch of other platforms, Instagram, on X as well, and YouTube. I've got a ton of different platforms that I use that I sort of share my fitness expertise. So again, you can reach out to reach out on any of those platforms if you have questions. So thank you guys again, and I will have another live stream next week. I already have the topic ready. It's going to be mainly discussing periodization, which is going to be basically about discussing different sort of ways to structure workout plans, different splits, things of that nature is what I'm going to discuss. So I'll see you guys in that next live stream. But thank you guys again for watching, and I really appreciate it.